All right, let's get right into it. Today we're talking about something called the Mind Development Protocol, or MDP for short. And look, this isn't just another set of self-help tips. Think of it more like installing a brand new, high-performance operating system for your mind.
So, here's what we're going to cover. First, we'll look at the survival program trap, why we all get stuck. Then, we'll introduce a new GPS for the mind, dig into the game-changing Everything is Exercise insight, map out your first 100 steps to make this real, and finally, explore what it really means to unlock your next level.
Okay, Section 1, the survival program trap. Let's talk about why change is just so hard. I think we've all felt that invisible wall we hit when we try to make a real shift in our lives.
I mean, you've been there, right? You set a new goal, you're fired up, you're totally motivated, but then something inside just slams on the brakes. You procrastinate, you slip back into old habits. Well, it turns out there's a really good reason for that, and it's not a lack of willpower.
Meet the culprit, the survival program. This is your mind's default setting, its ancient operating system. And its number one job is just to keep everything exactly the same. Why? Well, because you're alive right now. And from its point of view, every single thing you've done up to this point is part of a winning formula. So the second you try something new or uncomfortable, alarms start blaring. Warning! Change! This is not part of the plan.
So now that we've met the enemy, so to speak, let's talk about the solution. This is where we get to install that upgrade, the Mind Development Protocol.
The Mind Development Protocol, the MDP, is basically a technology for your consciousness. You know, your default survival program, it doesn't have a map. It just wants to stay put. The MDP, on the other hand, is like a GPS. It gives you that turn-by-turn guidance, that clarity, that confidence that your efforts are actually taking you somewhere you want to go.
And this is the kind of massive mindset shift we're talking about. You know, for so long, we've been sold this idea that talent or genius is this magical thing only a few people are born with. But what if that's just not true? What if they're just states of mind anyone can learn to access? It reminds me of the 1968 Olympics. A long jumper absolutely shattered the world record. Before him, everyone thought they'd hit the physical limit. But once he proved it was possible, other athletes started jumping farther too. He didn't change physics, he changed what they believed was possible. That's what the MDP does for your mind.
Okay, this next idea, this is the engine that drives the whole protocol. It's a really simple insight, but once you get it, really get it, it changes absolutely everything.
And here it is, the big aha moment. Your life is already a gym. You're already training your mind 24/7. The only question is whether you're doing it on purpose. When you see that brushing your teeth isn't just a chore, it's an exercise in building routine, or that a tricky conversation is an exercise in communication, your whole world transforms into a training ground. You stop waiting for the right time to practice, and you start developing your mind in real time, all the time.
Okay, so the philosophy is cool, but how do we actually do this? How do we take these big ideas and turn them into something real? Let's get practical.
It all starts with this number, 100. And it's not just a random number. It represents a full cycle of change, big enough to create a real transformation, but small enough that you can actually start tomorrow. This is called the Portals method, and it's how you bring the MDP to life. Think of it like this. If mind development is this huge, amazing internet of possibilities, the Portals method is your web browser. It makes it easy to access. You just pick an area you're curious about. Anything. Learning an instrument, coding, getting better at cooking. Then you break it down into 100 concrete steps. And then you just start with step 1. The moment you commit to this, you take on this incredible new identity. You become a student in your own legendary academy.
So, what's the point of all this? What's the payoff? What actually happens when you start completing these cycles of development? Well, the transformation is pretty profound.
This right here might be the single most powerful shift you can make. When your primary goal becomes developing your mind, failure suddenly becomes impossible. Think about it. Whether a project succeeds or fails, by old standards doesn't matter, because no matter what the outcome, you are guaranteed a win. Your mind grew. Your mind developed. This completely removes the fear of trying anything new and turns every challenge into a pure opportunity.
Now, to really understand the long-term power of this, there's this old story about a king and a chessboard that illustrates it perfectly. It shows how these tiny, consistent efforts can compound into something absolutely massive.
So the story goes. A wise person asks a king for a reward, and the request seems really humble. Just 1 grain of wheat on the first square of a chessboard. The king kind of scoffs, thinking it's nothing.
And that's your first step in the protocol, right? It feels small, maybe even insignificant. But the deal was to double the grains on each new square. And that doubling effect, it kicks in fast. By just the 6th square, it's over 65,000 grains of wheat. This is like your progress after a few months with the MDP. The results are no longer small. You're seeing real, tangible growth.
But by the time he gets to square 40, before even finishing the board, the king realizes he owes the person over 1 trillion grains of wheat, which is more than all the wheat in the entire world. And that is the power of a developed mind. The growth isn't just 1 + 1, it's exponential. Your ability to learn, to solve problems, to create, it just keeps accelerating.
So what does that exponential growth actually feel like in your day-to-day life? Well, it feels like discipline that's just natural, not forced. It feels like a built-in shield from stress, because you see every challenge as a lesson. It feels like more motivation, more energy, because your mind is clear and focused. You become incredibly adaptable. And maybe best of all, you find real clarity, joy, and fulfillment in the journey itself.
And here's the simple truth of it all. A smarter, calmer, more capable version of you isn't some fantasy. It already exists. The Mind Development Protocol isn't about becoming someone you're not. It's a reliable system for becoming more of who you already are. Your next level is there, and you can absolutely reach it. And that brings us to the end of our explainer, but really, it's the beginning of your journey. The path is laid out. The method is simple. So the only real question left is the one that matters most. What's your step one?